why this is worrisome is just the fact that, firstly, that the missile was allowed that the missile test was allowed to take place, and that the missile was launched. To give some context, there are two common types of missile test failure. The first, which is much more common in all states around the world, including India and Pakistan, is when a missile is launched and at some point during the launch process, when it's in the air, it begins to veer off course. That might be due to some failure in the navigational system, in some kind of failure in the propulsion system. But when that happens, the missile has a self-destruct mechanism that the controllers on the ground can press, and the missile can be destroyed mid-flight to prevent it, hitting a population center, or just to stop the launch and to prevent any damage occurring from that. This did not happen with the BrahMos, and it's concerning that the missile observers were able to watch this approach, cross, enter Pakistan territory, and at no point was the self-destruct button pressed. The second category of missile test failure, which this one falls into, is much more concerning. That is not when the missile has launched and begins to veer off course, but what we've seen here is that the missile launch itself was the accident, was the mistake. In that, in terms of India's various command and control protocols held by the Ministry of Defense, held by the Indian Air Force, who were in possession of the missile, that the missile was able to be launched without the necessary authorizations being in place. This is much more concerning because it shows that the command and control mechanisms that India has over the BrahMos are not secure enough to prevent a missile being launched. And this is also a much more rare form of missile test failure. And we're fortunate in some ways just because of the multiple different interpretations that could have happened and didn't happen in this case. This is the BrahMos is viewed by Pakistan as being a nuclear capable missile. And they could have seen this as being perhaps the first of a broader missile salvo, the first of a broader missile attack. And they chose to allow this to cross the Pakistan border and just simply tracked it and allowed it to crash. They could have easily seen this as being the start of a missile attack, but they chose not to do so. We're fortunate in that that was the interpretation out of many different interpretations of what this was that Pakistan selected. We are also very fortunate in that this occurred during a point in time in India-Pakistan relations of relative calm, so to speak. It did not occur, for example, during the height of the Balakot-Pulwama crisis, in which case Pakistan might have had a very different interpretation of what this accidental missile launch was. And so in terms of the timing of this, we were very fortunate that this did not lead to more dramatic escalation, just by the peaceable context that was part of the background of this.